Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're steering the conversation away from the usual quarterly reports and maybe focusing more on the internal infrastructure, you could say. The stuff that really underpins long-term success.
Yeah, things like discipline and character. Really foundational stuff.
Exactly. We're jumping into how successful people earn real respect. You know, the kind that actually lasts, and maybe more importantly, the kind that starts from within.
It's a really essential distinction, I think.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the bedrock of sustained wealth, not just, a temporary gain here or there.
Right.
So our mission today is to analyze a stack of insights, really drawn from years someone spent working within and actually running a multi-million-dollar business.
Okay.
So this isn't theory. This material gives us 5 actionable keys that top performers apparently use to build a reputation that almost acts as its own currency.
Interesting. So we're going beyond just being charming or charismatic.
Way beyond. We're looking at the demonstrable actions, the things you can actually see, that separate those who are consistently respected from those who are, well, maybe just tolerated or even overlooked sometimes.
Absolutely. And you know, the moment you delve into this material, it hits you with the central conflict immediately. Respect versus liking.
That's the core tension.
Yeah, the successful individuals that are chronicled here, they seem to have made an active choice, often a difficult one, it sounds like.
Definitely.
And these 5 steps we're going to talk about, they're purely focused on measurable action, consistency, and holding yourself and others accountable. It's not about being the most friendly or, the most popular person in the room.
Precisely. Respect, according to this source, is earned through demonstrable discipline and measurable action.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you stop chasing the approval of others, when you shift that focus entirely inward towards self-respect.
Okay.
That's when you start to gain this kind of authority that, well, others inevitably notice.
Okay, so let's unpack this fundamental choice right away then, because it sounds like it dictates pretty much everything that follows. So the first step, and maybe the hardest one, making that explicit decision. Do you want to be respected, or do you primarily want to be liked?
Yeah, and the person who provided this material, they actually admitted to being a natural people pleaser for a long time.
Really? That seems hard to believe, given their level of success now.
Right, but that shift is profound.
Yeah.
And the material really digs into why people tend to default to people-pleasing.
Okay, why is that?
Well, it seems to come down to short-term versus long-term rewards. Liking feels good now. It's instant gratification.
Ah, okay.
You say yes, you laugh at the joke, maybe you compromise a little, and you get that immediate hit of approval. It's like a quick social reward.
Makes sense.
Respect, though, that's a delayed reward.
Yeah.
It often requires friction, maybe even some immediate social disapproval. It takes guts sometimes.
And the conflict really seems to arise because most of us, well, we try to get both at the same time, don't we?
Exactly. And when you don't fully commit to one or the other, when you're kind of confused about whether you're prioritizing respect or liking, you almost automatically default to compromise.
And prioritizing liking, according to this, leads almost inevitably to this steady erosion of your character because you're constantly bending your values.
Yeah. The material is brutally explicit about that trap of people-pleasing. It shows up as compromising on your core values just to, maintain social standing or avoid rocking the boat.
How does that look in practice?
Well, the main example given is spending time around people whose activities you fundamentally disagree with, like, say, excessive drinking, or maybe just wasteful behavior, things you don't believe in, but staying there anyway.
I think everyone can probably relate to that feeling, being somewhere, looking around and realizing, wow, I fundamentally disagree with what's happening here, or maybe this is actively working against my own goals.
Right. But instead of leaving,
Yeah.
you stay.
Why? Just because the discomfort of saying no, or maybe challenging the environment, feels greater in that moment than the sort of long-term cost of compromising your evening or your discipline or your values?
That's exactly the mechanism of compromise described here. If you were truly prioritizing respect, starting with your own self-respect, you'd probably do one of 3 things.
Okay, like what?
You'd either speak up, try to correct the behavior maybe, or you try to change the environment somehow. Or, simplest of all, you just leave.
But instead, when you prioritize liking,
You just keep nodding along, maybe agreeing to things that ultimately make you feel kind of small because you know you're constantly compromising your own standards.
it feels like an internal betrayal almost, like this chronic low-level hum of cognitive dissonance.
Exactly. And this anchors that foundational rule mentioned in the sources. The very first person who has to respect you is you. If you're consistently signaling to yourself that your values, your goals, your time,
Mm.
that they're all secondary to getting external approval,
Mm.
then you basically guarantee that nobody else will take them seriously either.
Wow, okay.
There's this college anecdote in the material that perfectly captures this internal struggle.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
So this individual, they weren't really the partying type, didn't even like to drink much, but they felt pressured to spend time with friends who did.
Okay.
So they'd be there, often sober, just wasting hours of potential study time or productive time, simply trying to get those friends to think they were cool or, just to keep them in the social circle.
Oof. And the internal monologue described in the notes, it sounds painful. It wasn't just about wasting time, was it?
No, it was the active, conscious choice to remain in an environment that felt irrelevant, even counterproductive to the goals they claimed they wanted to achieve.
So they were prioritizing the fleeting opinions of, like, temporary peers over their own future self?
Pretty much. Over that enduring commitment to who they wanted to become.
And the cost of that inability to enforce self-respect, it sounds immense.
It is. The material argues that without respect, starting with self-respect, your voice just gets utterly drowned out. In a professional setting, this has immediate, measurable consequences.
How so?
You can be the nicest, most charismatic person on the planet, genuinely.
Yeah.
But if you don't respect your own time and your own boundaries, if you don't respect your own directives even then, why would anyone else follow them?
So if you find yourself constantly being interrupted, or maybe your advice is always ignored, or you just feel overwhelmed by everyone else's demands,
Yeah.
the actionable takeaway from this first foundational choice is that you have to adopt a more active posture. Is that right?
That's it. Respect requires establishing clear, firm boundaries. It requires showing undeniable competence, and it requires communicating your intent with a certain authority.
So it's an active decision to stand by your word, not just a passive hope that people will like you enough to follow you.
Exactly. It shifts your energy from seeking validation, which is draining, to projecting certainty. And that certainty, that foundation of self-respect, is what allows us to move directly into the second key.
Which is consistency.
Right, consistency. So building right on that foundation of self-respect, the second key is consistency. And we need to analyze the direct causal connection here. Consistency, practiced over long periods of time, creates confidence.
Confidence in yourself first, I imagine.
Absolutely. Confidence in yourself, and then as a result, confidence in others regarding your reliability. They start to trust you.
Consistency. In this context, it sounds like the ultimate measure of integrity, doesn't it?
It really is. Integrity isn't just about, not telling lies. It's about aligning your actions with what you say you're going to do, with your stated intentions.
All right.
And when that alignment happens repeatedly, when you consistently deliver on what you promised yourself or what you promised others, you start building this kind of internal compounding interest.
It's like every small win reinforces the belief that you're capable and trustworthy.
Exactly. And the material uses a really simple, relatable example. Starting a health journey.
Ah, yes. We've all been there.
Right. You buy the new workout clothes, you get all excited, you set these lofty goals. That initial intention is super high.
Definitely.
But fast forward 2 weeks, if you've quit already, that sudden inconsistency just tanks your self-confidence immediately. You feel like you've let yourself down.
Yeah, it's a form of self-betrayal, isn't it?
It is. And the material argues that the cumulative effect of all these small self-betrayals, these inconsistencies, it just cripples your ambition over time.
It's not just a physical failure, like not going to the gym. It's an intellectual failure to follow through on a commitment you made to yourself.
And you start to internalize this identity, maybe subconsciously, of someone who quits, someone who can't really be relied upon even by themselves.
Okay, so then how does this translate to, like, interpersonal reliability?
Well, you just extrapolate it. If you promise a friend or your spouse that you're going to help with a project, or you'll definitely show up for dinner, and then you back out last minute just because you don't feel like it. That decision, that single moment of inconsistency, it provides data. It tells them something. Every single decision you make, whether it's consistent or inconsistent, is informing others about the level of confidence they should place in your word.
And I bet this data gathering gets amplified massively in the workplace.
Oh, absolutely. Inconsistency there becomes this huge operational sinkhole. In the business that was analyzed for this material, the leadership apparently knows instantly who they can count on and who they can't.
And guess who gets the big projects?
The consistent people.
Yeah.
Every time. The material lays out a really clear standard. If a team member consistently follows up, hits their deadlines, proactively communicates issues for, say, 6 months straight,
Okay.
and then one day they happen to miss one minor task because there's a genuine emergency, it's forgiven instantly, no questions asked.
Why? Because the pattern is already established.
Exactly. The long-term pattern of action has already proven them to be a reliable, consistent person. They've basically banked all this reliability capital.
But I want to push back here a little because sometimes people are just genuinely juggling too much, or they face external pressures that make consistency really difficult. Is this approach maybe a bit too rigid? Doesn't life require some flexibility?
That's a really critical question, and the material does address it. It makes a distinction between an external excuse, like a real emergency, and an internal commitment failure.
Ah, okay.
Consistency doesn't mean being a robot. It means being reliable within the scope of your commitment. The problem isn't the occasional, unavoidable slip-up due to something outside your control.
The problem is the pattern.
Exactly. The problem is the individual who sometimes follows up and sometimes doesn't.
Yeah.
Who sometimes does what they say and sometimes offers this elaborate excuse. That person becomes a liability.
And that person will just get bypassed every single time. And the deep irony, which the source points out, is always the same.
What's that?
The inconsistent person is often the one who desperately desires more opportunity, more trust, more money. They want to handle bigger, more complex responsibilities.
Right. But they can't even consistently handle the basic task that's currently in front of them.
So what happens?
It forces their colleagues or their leadership to end up either fixing their errors constantly or worse, having to do their job for them, simply because they cannot rely on that inconsistent individual.
So the business can't possibly elevate them because they're actually creating drag at the entry level?
Precisely. Respect becomes the compounded return on all those small, consistent decisions you make every day.
So the upside here, which actually feels immensely encouraging, is that consistency is entirely within your control.
Completely.
You don't have to commit to something if you have no intention of doing it. Just be honest up front.
Right. Under promise, over deliver.
But once you do make the commitment, your word has to become law, essentially. It's the action that proves trustworthiness, not the intention you had, and definitely not the excuse you come up with later for backing out.
Well said. And this ability to be reliable, to be consistent, it acts as the bedrock for the next essential key.
Which involves setting boundaries.
Setting and enforcing boundaries, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so consistency provides that reliable structure for your life, but boundaries. Boundaries provide the necessary protection and, interestingly, a kind of filtration system.
Filtration, how so?
Well, this third key is all about setting and then enforcing clear boundaries. And the material states unequivocally the hardest part isn't just creating the boundaries.
It's the enforcement.
It's having the conviction to actually enforce them,
Yeah.
especially when it involves people who are close to you. That's where it gets really tough.
Right. It's described as a two-step process,
Yep.
creation and enforcement. Let's start with creating them. The source suggests making two specific, pretty high-stakes lists.
Yeah. The first list is step 1, which they call the shield. This is your list of hard no's.
Hard nose, meaning
These are the types of behaviors you will absolutely not tolerate. Not from coworkers, not from friends, not even from family. These are your non-negotiables.
like what kind of things?
Could be anything, really. People who are chronic liars, maybe. Or those who constantly mock your ambition, who try to pull you down. Or even just people who constantly demand your time without respecting your schedule or your priorities. Listing these things establishes your protective perimeter.
Okay, that's the shield. What's the second list?
Step 2 is the magnet. You create a corresponding list of the expected characteristics that the greatest people, the kind of people you want to bring into your life, must possess.
So you define the ideal.
Exactly. If you want high-caliber, successful, disciplined people around you, you need to define those traits clearly. Are they action-oriented? Do they value time like you do? Are they solution-focused? Or are they always complaining?
And this immediately leads to some potentially uncomfortable self-reflection, doesn't it?
It does. The source material basically demands it. It says, if you look around and you don't currently have great people in your life, the problem might not be external.
Meaning?
It might be that you are not living in the same value set as the people you claim you wish to attract.
Ouch.
Yeah. High-value individuals tend to gravitate toward other high-value systems, other people operating at a similar level. Why would they want to spend significant time with you if you aren't exhibiting the same kind of discipline and consistency that they live by?
That makes sense. It's like attracts like, and this is where that alignment anecdote comes in, right? Which
Yeah.
is fantastic because it really illustrates the work required to become that magnet.
Yeah, the source shared this deep desire they had to build a relationship, to actually spend time with Elena Cardone, who, is a highly disciplined, very successful
Right.
entrepreneur.
High value individual.
Totally. But the immediate realization was, well, if that opportunity somehow happened right then, at that moment,
Right.
the source felt they would have been utterly unprepared.
How so?
Well,
Unprepared in what way?
they admitted they weren't working out consistently back then. Their goals were kind of wishy-washy, not clearly defined. They felt they couldn't clearly communicate their own personal direction or their achievements with any real confidence.
So the fear was the interaction would feel hollow, or maybe even embarrassing, because there wasn't a shared value set beyond just like surface level admiration.
Exactly that. It was this sharp realization of inadequacy. But instead of retreating from that feeling, they made a hard commitment.
What did they do?
This individual apparently spent the next 6 months actively becoming the type of person Elena would naturally want to befriend or associate with.
Wow. Like specifically targeting those areas.
Yes, getting ruthlessly consistent at the gym, setting clear personal goals and actually achieving them, refining their professional communication skills so they could speak about their work with authority.
So they were building themselves up to that level.
Precisely. So when the opportunity to interact finally arose, they actually had shared interests to discuss the discipline, the commitment to fitness, the clear professional goals. They could connect on a value level, not just as a fan admiring someone successful.
They proactively created the alignment before they sought the connection. That proves they respected themselves enough to meet that high standard first.
That's exactly how you earn respect, according to this, through preparation and achieving parity. You level yourself up.
Okay, but let's get into the really hard part now, enforcement. The rubber meets the road when someone actually violates a boundary you've set, especially if it's, say, family or a longtime friend or even a key employee you rely on.
Yeah.
It must be incredibly emotionally taxing to draw that hard line and basically say, look, you no longer get a spot here.
The material fully acknowledges the emotional toll. It talks about how people might have laughed at the source or lessened their role or criticized their ambition when they started setting these boundaries. In those moments, enforcing the boundary feels like ripping off a bandage, right?
But
It's scary because we fear the vacuum it might create, maybe the loneliness, definitely the potential conflict.
okay, I feel like I have to challenge this point directly, though. To just kick out a longtime friend or a relative because they violate some new boundary, it sounds almost ruthless. How do you balance that kind of self-preservation with, having grace for people who might genuinely be struggling themselves?
That's a fair challenge.
Yeah.
The material, as I read it, is firm, but it's not necessarily merciless. It seems to distinguish between someone who is genuinely struggling but still respects your boundary, even if they stumble,
Okay.
versus someone who is actively invalidating you or mocking your efforts or consistently disrespecting your choices. Grace might be for the person struggling who still respects you. The hard line is reserved for the person who constantly disrespects your time, undermines your self-respect, or just flat out refuses to adhere to the fundamental standards you've set for your own life and well-being.
Ah, okay. So the boundary isn't just about the behavior. It's a measurement of whether they fundamentally value you and your choices, not just whether they need something from you.
Exactly. And the source offers this incredible promise, apparently based on hard-won experience.
Yeah.
Getting rid of people who consistently violate your core boundaries. It never makes your life worse in the long run.
Never. That's a bold claim.
That's what it says. It actively gets better. They assure the listener. When you remove that psychological drag, that constant invalidation, you immediately improve your own velocity. You move faster.
That actually makes perfect sense when you put it that way. When you eliminate someone who is constantly invalidating you or pulling you down or disrespecting your time and energy, your life immediately springboards forward, as the source puts it.
Yeah.
You've basically eliminated a source of chronic draining drag. And that frees up so much mental and emotional energy for focused ambition for what really matters.
So that hardline enforcement, which feels difficult in the moment, is paradoxically a massive boost to your self-respect and your forward momentum.
Which leads us naturally to the next point about where to direct that freed up energy.
Right. Gord's mastery.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first three keys really focused on your internal structure. Self-respect, consistency, and your external protection, those boundaries. This fourth key now turns to your measurable contribution to the world.
Right. The engine of your authority, as the source calls it, is the mastery of one specific craft.
This is presented as perhaps the most straightforward route to earning respect. Think about it. If you aren't demonstrably great at anything specific, it's actually quite difficult to argue why respect is deserved beyond just basic human decency.
People often fall back on, well, I'm a nice person, I'm a good person.
Exactly. But as the source material points out pretty bluntly, just being a nice person isn't really a measurable contribution, especially not in the marketplace or in a team setting. It doesn't create tangible value on its own.
So we have to shift our focus away from just personality traits towards measurable impact.
Completely. The critical question you have to ask yourself maybe every morning is my environment, my team, my family, my business, whatever it is it measurably better because I am here?
And if the environment just stays the same, or worse, if it actually degrades because you show up but don't contribute effectively.
Then respect is absolutely unearned in that context. You haven't added value.
So respect is earned because you can actually point to positive things, specific outcomes that happened because you were involved.
Precisely. A respected team member measurably improves the team's results. Maybe they increase efficiency, or they close more sales, or they streamline a clunky process. A respected mother, the example given, sets up her kids for success and helps them contribute positively to society.
The results speak far louder than your intentions or how charming you are.
Let's dive into the business angle of this because it emphasizes the crucial need for specific, physical, measurable stats. This seems to be where most aspiring achievers get trapped. They fall into this confusion trap, trying to be good at everything all at once. Good at social media, and good at PR, and good at sales, and good at bookkeeping, and good at leadership.
Spreading themselves too thin.
Exactly. They become mediocre generalists, jacks of all trades, masters of none.
And the market generally places a premium on specialization and depth, right?
It does. So the solution provided here is almost radical in its simplicity. Get truly, undeniably great at one thing.
Just one.
Focus on one first. The source uses their current social media team as a case study. Apparently, they achieve ridiculous stats, like off-the-charts results.
And why is that?
Because they focus relentlessly on mastering one specific craft. Video storytelling and creating compelling messages that generate specific, measurable outcomes like leads or sales or engagement.
So they didn't worry about mastering every single new platform that popped up or every fancy new ad type.
No. They mastered the core mechanism of conveying value via video in a way that resonates now. And that deep mastery translates directly into immediate authority in that domain and critically predictable, repeatable results.
Okay, now we need to contrast that success with the story of the former team member who fell into that confusion trap you mentioned.
Right. So she came in and, according to the notes, immediately claimed she was overwhelmed. She argued that the content was already performing as best as it can.
Basically suggesting that the current mediocre results were just a function of the market or the platform, not her lack of skill or effort.
Exactly. Shifting the blame externally. But the reality, as revealed in the analysis, was that she hadn't actually studied the craft with the intensity required for mastery.
What does that mean, studied the craft?
It means she was focused on effort, just showing up, posting things, being busy, but not on true mastery. She hadn't dedicated herself to understanding the specific algorithms, the current engagement triggers, the compelling messaging techniques that were working right now in today's environment.
So she was operating based on outdated knowledge, like what worked 5 years ago.
Apparently so. She hadn't kept up. So she might have had consistency in showing up, but she lacked consistency in delivering results because she didn't have that necessary depth of mastery.
And when the team changed,
the growth exploded.
Yeah.
Because the new team focused on what you might call T-shaped specialization. Deep mastery in one core area, complemented by a general awareness of others, that mastery turned them into an authority almost overnight.
Okay, so the action mandate for the listener here seems really clear and specific.
It is. They call it the 18-month plan.
The 18-month plan.
Yeah. Pick one single thing you want to master.
Yeah.
It could be a specific type of coding, particular sales technique, graphic design software, maybe a specific marketing channel like YouTube ads or SEO.
Just one thing.
Just one. And pursue undeniable, measurable results in that single area for the next 18 months. Really dedicate yourself before you even think about moving on to master something else.
And that dedicated focus and the undeniable results that come from it?
It makes respect automatic. at least within that domain. You become the subject matter expert, the go-to person that everyone else has to defer to in that specific situation.
So you remove the need to constantly argue for respect or demand it.
Because your results argue for you. They speak for themselves.
Powerful. Okay, that covers mastery. What's the final key?
The final key brings it all back home, focusing on the ultimate judge, yourself.
All right, so we've established these 4 huge internal shifts. Choosing respect, being consistent, setting boundaries, mastering a craft. But even if you execute all 4 perfectly, the material offers a pretty significant dose of reality here.
It does. It acknowledges that external judgment and validation might still be missing, even if you're doing everything right by these principles.
Yeah, the expert in the source material actually admitted something like, I still don't get the level of respect from people that I would necessarily like, even after all this success.
And that admission is actually a crucial pivot point in the whole argument. This deep dive isn't ultimately just about manipulating external approval, right? It's about achieving internal sovereignty. The very fact that the source, someone running a successful multi-million-dollar business, exhibiting high character by these standards, still encounters external criticism or lack of respect, is the ultimate proof that you must decouple your self-worth from other people's opinions.
You can't control what others think or say.
Exactly. And the source material shares a really vulnerable moment related to this, recounting the fear that arose when she married her husband, who was already a highly successful business savant.
Okay, what was the fear?
The fear was being perpetually viewed only as the husband's wife, or being told dismissively, oh, you just got lucky, or you must not work very hard, implying her success was solely due to him.
Wow, even while putting in the work.
Yes. That fear is so powerful because it's a fear of being completely discounted, despite the objective fact that, according to the notes, the source was working insane hours, like 18 hours a day, and driving immense consistent value within the business herself.
So she was delivering results, she was mastering her craft, she had the boundaries. But she was still anticipating these external judgments that would just deny her efforts and her contribution.
Right, and this leads to the really powerful reframe provided in the material. She realized eventually that other people's lack of respect for her had absolutely nothing to do with the respect she needed to cultivate for herself.
So the external judgment, the negativity, the criticism.
The source simplifies it perfectly. She says that is on them. It's their issue. It's their lack of vision, maybe their insecurity, maybe their inability to handle your success or your discipline. It's not actually about you.
That shift makes self-accountability the ultimate and maybe the only reliable metric.
Precisely. Because the only person who truly sees how you show up, day in and day out, the only one who knows if you cut corners when no one was looking, the only one who knows if you betrayed your own boundaries or failed on your commitments, is you.
So the ultimate question really just becomes, do you respect the way you show up?
That's it. If you follow the plan, if you stick to the consistency, if you enforce your boundaries, if you master your craft, and if you execute what you know you were capable of with discipline, then the lack of external respect, while maybe annoying, becomes entirely manageable.
Because your internal respect, your self-respect becomes unshakable.
Exactly. And this culminates in the final, really uncompromising action mandate from the source. Respect, at the end of the day, is about actions and results, period.
So the advice is pretty direct.
Extremely direct. Stop talking about wanting respect. Stop complaining about others not respecting you, because, frankly, the source says nobody cares. That's just outside noise distracting you.
Okay. So instead of complaining,
Put your head down. Focus on that 18-month plan for mastery. Enforce those hard-no boundaries relentlessly. Choose respect over liking every single time. And prove your worth through consistent, undeniable results over a long period of time.
and if you follow these 5 keys,
You create the internal discipline and the deep character that real wealth and long-term success actually depend on. You eliminate the massive distraction of chasing external approval and focus entirely on developing and demonstrating quantifiable competence. That's the path outlined here. #tag outro. Well, that was a genuine deep dive into what you might call character engineering, I suppose.
Yeah.
To quickly synthesize those 5 core tenets for earning lasting respect that we covered.
Yeah, let's recap.
First, you absolutely must make that hard choice. Prioritize earning respect over the temporary, often fleeting gratification of just being liked.
Okay, number 1.
Second, build that unstoppable confidence in yourself and engender it in others through unyielding consistency in all your self-imposed commitments. Do what you say you'll do.
Got it. Consistency.
Third, define and maybe more importantly, strictly enforce your boundaries. They act as both a shield against negativity and toxic influences and as a magnet drawing in the quality relationships you actually want.
Boundaries. Shield and magnet. Okay.
Fourth, achieve undeniable mastery in at least one specific craft. Ensure your results become your undeniable authority, speaking louder than any words could.
Mastery in one thing.
And finally, number 5, prioritize your own self-respect above all else, fueling it through consistent, long-term, demonstrable action. Recognize that external judgment is ultimately irrelevant to your internal commitment and your personal integrity.
That really is a clear roadmap, isn't it? For anyone looking to build lasting value in their life and, crucially, escape that exhausting trap of constantly seeking approval.
Seems that way.
So if this deep dive helped you rethink how you earn respect, or maybe where you should be focusing your energy, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and maybe share it with someone you know who's ready to level up their discipline and their character.
Good idea.
And here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on, drawing directly from that boundaries section, specifically the enforcement part. If we know that external validation is often a common, maybe even destructive distraction, what is one single hard no boundary, something you know you will absolutely not tolerate any longer in your immediate environment that you need to set, maybe starting today?
Good question.
Think about setting that hard line, defining that non-negotiable, and knowing, based on the source's promise, that the moment you actually enforce it consistently, your life will only springboard forward.
Respect is earned through action. Thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive.
We'll see you next time.